Dr. Vimister, from a historical perspective, where did the rosary come from?
That's a bit mysterious. There was a brother, Dominican brother, who knew Saint Dominic personally, and on his deathbed, he's called Brother Romeo. On his deathbed, an eyewitness records that he was holding a piece of string with knots tied in it, and he was counting aves on the piece of string while meditating upon the mysteries of our Lord's nativity and exhorting his brethren to do likewise. This tantalizing scrap of evidence as to the origin of the rosary. Now, in the 15th century, there was a Dominican called Blessed Alan de la Roche, who had many private revelations of Our Lady and of St. Dominic, in which he saw all sorts of events and was told all about the giving of the rosary in a great revelation of Our Lady to St. Dominic in the south of France during his mission there against the Albigensians in the early 13th century. That's not normally sort of evidence that historians deal in, private revelations from 200 years later. So as I say, it's a bit mysterious. The problem is essentially this: the rosary, in its classical form, has 150 Hail Marys in it, and that's not a coincidence. Those Hail Marys correspond to the 150 Psalms of the Psalter. And so the rosary is intended, and this was quite a common practice. For example, the rule of the Franciscans by St. Francis contains rules for lay brothers who can't read or don't have possession of a copy of the Liturgy of the Hours, how they can substitute Our Fathers for various psalms in order to fulfill their obligations. So the rosary was originally intended for lay people who couldn't afford or weren't able to read a copy of the Liturgy of the Hours, to substitute the 150 Psalms of the Psalter by asking Our Lady to pray for them, essentially 150 times. Lay people who were imitating the life of the early Dominican friars were an important part of the early Dominican movement, because they were fighting in the Albigensian Crusade. There was a group, in fact, called, according to Blessed Raymond of Capua, a group called the Militia of Jesus Christ, which was fighting against the heretics in the Albigensian Crusade. And they eventually became the Order of Penance, the third order of St. Dominic. And they may very well be the people who were originally given the rosary by St. Dominic. But because it wouldn't have been something that was originally practiced by the friars themselves, the priests, and the clerical brethren, because they would be reading the Psalms from their books. That's probably why it fell into some considerable obscurity in the initial period after the life of St. Dominic, with only that tantalizing hint